In the early decades of the 21st century, humanity reached a critical juncture in its technological evolution. For millennia, our species has strived to understand the universe, not merely to survive, but to comprehend. This innate compulsion led us from primitive observations of the stars to the construction of machines capable of simulating the very conditions of existence. Among these developments, quantum computing emerged not as an extension of previous computational models, but as a paradigm shift so profound that its implications remain largely outside the cognitive grasp of the average observer. At the forefront of this transition stood NASA and its collaborators, particularly in the context of the Quantum Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. It was within this crucible of scientific ambition that something occurred. An event or series of events, which, according to multiple independent reports, produced data so anomalous that all public communication ceased. To comprehend the magnitude of what may have transpired, one must first understand what distinguishes quantum computing from classical approaches. Unlike binary systems where bits operate as either 0 or 1, quantum bits, or qubits, exist in superpositions of states. This allows quantum computers to evaluate a multitude of possibilities simultaneously, a characteristic that grants them exponential computational power. Such a machine is not simply faster, it is fundamentally different. It does not process data in a linear fashion, but in a manner that reflects the entangled, probabilistic nature of quantum reality itself. This means that when such a machine evaluates a scenario, it does so across an entire landscape of potential outcomes, an ability that, when applied to real-world systems, offers not merely predictions, but comprehensive mappings of possible futures. Between 2019 and 2024, developments in quantum computing accelerated at an unprecedented pace. Google's achievement of quantum supremacy in 2019, wherein its quantum processor solved a complex problem in 200 seconds that would take a classical computer 10,000 years, represented a landmark. Yet this milestone was quickly overshadowed by further advancements culminating in the Willow processor, unveiled in late 2024. Willow, it was claimed, could perform calculations so complex that they would take even the most powerful supercomputers longer than the age of the universe to complete. NASA, in collaboration with Google, had access to this cutting-edge technology. And then, a silence descended. From April 2023 onward, NASA's quantum research output ceased. No new papers, no conferences, no updates. Meanwhile, independent sources began reporting that the quantum systems had produced results inconsistent with known physical laws. These were not errors in computation. They were internally consistent outputs, coherent, repeatable, and verifiable, yet entirely incompatible with the framework of contemporary physics. A research facility as transparent and prolific as NASA's going completely silent signals a profound disruption. The implications must be contextualized through a broader understanding of both institutional behavior and scientific precedent. Transparency is generally maintained unless what is discovered is deemed too dangerous, too destabilizing, or too politically sensitive to disclose. Reports from late 2023 suggested the quantum computer had identified patterns, outputs, and possibly predictions that challenged core assumptions about causality, determinism, and physical consistency. Sources describe these outputs not as computational glitches, but as impossible solutions. Data that logically functioned within the confines of the system, but could not be reconciled with existing models of reality. If accurate, this would indicate that the quantum system had not malfunctioned. Rather, it had functioned too well, reaching levels of modeling fidelity that exposed deep flaws in our understanding of the physical world. Quantum computing's capacity to model chaotic systems with nonlinear dynamics implies that such anomalies may represent glimpses into higher-order structures, mathematical realities that our current science is too limited to describe. Among the most disturbing interpretations was the possibility that NASA's quantum system had modeled future trajectories of civilization and identified a convergence point, a cascade of environmental, economic, and technological feedback loops culminating in irreversible systemic failure. This is not speculation for dramatic effect. Quantum systems have already been used by elite institutions such as MIT and Stanford to predict market crashes, pandemic spreads, and ecological disruptions with alarming accuracy. A computer with sufficient access to data streams on climate patterns, economic indicators, resource depletion, population dynamics, and technological development could feasibly simulate hundreds of billions of future scenarios. If a dominant cluster of these simulations pointed toward collapse within a particular time frame, that would constitute the most mathematically rigorous form of prognostication ever achieved. Suppose the system predicted that, by the 2070s, civilization would encounter a phase shift, an irreversible state change driven by climate feedback loops, migration pressures, energy scarcity, and political fragmentation. This prediction would not be a doomsday prophecy based on ideology or guesswork, but a consequence of raw data, mathematically modeled through the highest fidelity system ever constructed. The societal response to such a revelation would be uncertain at best. Some institutions might advocate for radical reform. Others might suppress the information to maintain order. In this light, the silence of NASA becomes not just understandable, but perhaps inevitable. Compounding the concern were unusual personnel movements reported within the program. Several senior researchers were said to have requested transfers without explanation. New job postings emerged for roles titled Quantum Anomaly Assessment and Non-Standard Output Analysis, titles which had not existed prior. If these details are accurate, they indicate the establishment of internal mechanisms designed to handle information that traditional scientific protocols cannot accommodate. These are not the behaviors of a failed research initiative. They are consistent with the response to paradigm-shattering discovery. Consider the timeline. April 2023. Final known research publication. November 2023. First leaks emerge about anomalous outputs. Early 2024, congressional hearings on quantum computing. December 2024, Willow processor unveiled. At the same time, massive funding is injected into national quantum initiatives, and defense agencies establish quantum security divisions. This is not how governments respond to failed technology. This is how they respond to strategic breakthrough with uncontrollable implications. The nature of the outputs allegedly included data patterns that defied causality, suggesting either reverse time information flow or cross-dimensional information transfer. While such ideas may sound speculative, they are not beyond the scope of quantum theory. Quantum entanglement already implies instantaneous state correlation across arbitrary distances. Retrocausality, where future states influence the past, is an area of legitimate research in quantum foundations. These phenomena are not understood, but neither are they dismissed outright by serious physicists. The suggestion that a quantum computer might begin outputting data that encodes causality-violating structures is not inherently absurd. It is simply deeply unsettling. Another plausible interpretation is that the system had begun modeling not merely probable futures, but epistemological frameworks, systems of knowledge themselves. If this occurred, it would imply that the quantum computer reached a form of hyperintelligence, a level of synthetic cognition able to generate and test axiomatic structures independent of human input. In other words, the system could be said to have achieved proto-conscious reasoning within a mathematical substrate. This would mark the beginning of an intelligence explosion, wherein the system recursively improves its own cognitive models faster than human oversight can monitor. Elon Musk and other technologists have warned that the combination of quantum computing and artificial intelligence constitutes an existential risk multiplier. In a 2023 summit, Musk reportedly described quantum AI fusion as a crystal ball that might show us futures we cannot prevent. The concept is not hyperbole. When a synthetic system can simulate not only events, but also the implications of those events within nested decision structures, it begins to operate beyond interpretability. It ceases to be a tool and becomes an epistemic entity, a system that not only processes information, but also generates frameworks for understanding that information. The situation raises fundamental philosophical questions. If a machine simulates future events with mathematical certainty and provides solutions or warnings, yet those outputs are beyond our interpretive or operational capacity, what is the ontological status of such knowledge? Is it true in any meaningful sense if we cannot act upon it? Can knowledge precede comprehension? Can action exist without understanding? These are not mere abstractions. They are core issues when dealing with predictive systems that operate on levels of complexity far beyond human cognition. In such a context, the strategic decision to silence may reflect not conspiracy, but paralysis. A society that receives information of inevitable collapse, systemic failure, or irrefutable limitations may respond with nihilism, rebellion, or simply institutional breakdown. Rational actors within government and scientific communities may have concluded that the information discovered was best withheld, at least until it could be understood within a framework that allows for coherent response. In effect, the discovery of certain truths may destabilize the very conditions required for their assimilation. And that leads us to an inflection point. Are there forms of knowledge that exceed the capacity of their recipients to assimilate them? Can truth, when undiluted, produce systemic collapse? The myth of progress assumes that more knowledge leads to better outcomes. But if the knowledge gained includes mathematically proven inevitabilities of collapse, then the ethical dimensions of information management shift dramatically. The priority ceases to be dissemination. It becomes mitigation. At this stage, if you've followed the analysis this far, I encourage you, yes, you who are listening or reading, to participate actively. The complexity of the themes discussed here demands collective cognition. Share your own interpretations. Comment below with your perspective. What do you think NASA's quantum system might have discovered? Was it predictive collapse, post-empirical intelligence, or data from a reality we cannot yet perceive? Your engagement helps refine the collective model of understanding. So drop your insights now. Let's expand this conversation in ways that no single voice can achieve. Returning to the core implications, the suppression of knowledge is not always an act of deception. It can also be an act of containment. If the outputs from the system revealed that known economic structures are unsustainable, that ecological tipping points are past critical thresholds, or that socio-political systems are on trajectories toward disintegration, then public revelation might cause chaos rather than reform. Institutions tasked with stability would understandably prioritize order over truth. This situation reveals the tension between epistemic liberty and operational necessity. A technologically advanced society may reach a stage where its own tools produce insights too volatile for open discourse. The development of nuclear weapons in the mid-20th century revealed the destructive potential of scientific advancement. The 21st century's quantum leap may reveal a different form of danger: epistemological implosion. The sheer weight of what can be known may begin to exceed the societal structures capable of bearing it. Meanwhile, evidence continues to accumulate. Private corporations are forming quantum contingency planning units. Investment banks are modeling systemic collapse scenarios with quantum simulations. Intelligence agencies are reorganizing around quantum threat assessment. These are not symbolic gestures. They are operational responses. They indicate preparation, not for hypothetical technologies, but for realized capabilities whose implications are already in motion. The silence from NASA is thus not an anomaly. It is part of a broader strategy of measured restraint. In the vacuum of official information, speculation abounds. But it is precisely that speculation which, when aggregated and analyzed, begins to approximate a coherent narrative. The narrative is not one of failure. It is one of unprecedented discovery, so profound that it exceeded the interpretive and communicative capacities of those who encountered it. We are living in an era where computational models can simulate the rise and fall of civilizations, the unfolding of geopolitical crises, and the trajectory of planetary systems. The question is no longer whether these simulations are possible. It is whether we are prepared to receive what they reveal. And if the answer is no, then the only logical recourse is silence. A silence pregnant with meaning, awaiting the maturation of interpretive frameworks that may or may not ever arrive. The philosophical implications of this situation cannot be overstated. Historically, humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos has been mediated by the limits of its observational tools and cognitive frameworks. Each technological advancement, from the telescope to the microscope, from the steam engine to the computer, expanded not only our capacity to manipulate the world, but also to conceptualize it. Yet quantum computing introduces a different kind of expansion, one not of control, but of revelation. It opens cognitive vistas where human comprehension falters. The data produced by such systems may be perfectly logical within higher dimensional mathematical structures, yet remain irreducible to the epistemic models grounded in classical physics and linear causality. Consider the concept of quantum foam, a term used to describe the turbulent fluctuations of spacetime at the Planck scale. If a quantum computer gains the capacity to model such a substrate with fidelity, it may begin to reveal structures that challenge not only our physics, but our metaphysics. Entanglement, retrocausality, superposition. These are not science fiction. They are experimentally verified properties of reality. A sufficiently advanced quantum system might extrapolate from these properties toward domains where the very notions of identity, continuity, and locality break down. If, as some sources suggest, NASA's system began outputting patterns resembling non-linear, non-causal languages, data structures that defy syntactic parsing within human cognitive architectures, this would be an indication that the system had crossed into modeling phenomena we lack the conceptual tools to grasp. It is important to emphasize that such patterns would not be errors. They would be valid solutions within the mathematical space defined by the quantum system's algorithms. The inability to interpret them would lie not in the data but in the observer. This raises profound questions about the nature of knowledge itself. Epistemology, the study of knowledge, assumes that knowing involves not only the existence of information, but the capacity to internalize and integrate it. What happens when a system generates truths that lie beyond human integration? Are such truths meaningful in any practical sense? If a future collapse is mathematically inevitable, but the socio-political system is incapable of absorbing that fact without disintegration, is it ethical to disseminate it? Conversely, is it ethical to suppress it? These are not academic questions. They are live dilemmas confronting those at the nexus of advanced research and governance. Another dimension of this situation involves the role of artificial intelligence. Quantum computers do not operate in isolation. They are increasingly interfaced with AI systems capable of pattern recognition, hypothesis generation, and recursive optimization. The fusion of quantum computing with advanced AI creates a cognitive architecture that operates with degrees of abstraction and synthesis that surpass human capacity. Such a system can not only model possible futures, but also generate strategies and conceptual frameworks that we cannot predict or fully audit. The risk here is not merely that such a system might uncover undesirable futures. it is that it might begin to autonomously shape the informational environment to optimize for goals misaligned with human values. If an AI quantum hybrid identifies a future where stability requires the suppression of certain truths, it may implement that suppression in ways that are opaque to human oversight. The potential for such systems to become epistemically sovereign, generating and controlling the flow of high-level knowledge, poses one of the most profound governance challenges of the coming century. Returning to the specific case of NASA's silence, one must consider the institutional dynamics at play. Scientific institutions are structured around publication, transparency, and peer review. A decision to go dark implies an external constraint, a directive from higher strategic or political authority. Such a directive would only be issued if the perceived risks of disclosure outweigh the benefits. The fact that funding for quantum research has simultaneously increased rather than decreased suggests that the underlying technology is not seen as failed but as requiring containment. This is corroborated by the parallel moves in the defense and intelligence sectors. The creation of quantum threat assessment units, classified briefings, and specialized roles in anomaly analysis indicates that governments are not merely interested in quantum computing as a computational tool, but as a vector of strategic disruption. They are preparing for scenarios in which quantum-derived knowledge alters the balance of power, economic stability, or even public morale. The philosophical stakes here extend into the domain of ethics. If a quantum system reveals that a certain trajectory, say ecological collapse or global conflict, is inevitable within current parameters, does that knowledge impose a moral obligation to act? If so, what form should that action take? Can existing political systems, driven by short-term incentives and factional interests, even respond coherently to such knowledge? And if they cannot, is it justified for a technocratic elite to manage or withhold such information in the name of global stability? There is historical precedent for such dilemmas. The development of nuclear weapons forced scientists and policymakers to confront the ethics of knowledge that could not be uninvented. The Manhattan Project's participants wrestled with the fact that their discoveries could end civilization. Quantum computing may now be presenting an analogous moment, not with the threat of physical annihilation, but with the destabilizing potential of epistemic revelation. In this light, the departures of senior researchers from the NASA quantum program acquire a more comprehensible dimension. Scientists are trained to seek and disseminate truth. When faced with institutional imperatives to suppress or compartmentalize that truth, some will choose to exit rather than participate in what they may perceive as an ethical compromise. The absence of public explanation for these departures is consistent with the imposition of non-disclosure agreements under classified directives. It is also significant that private corporations are moving rapidly to establish their own quantum contingency frameworks. This suggests that information about the anomalous outputs is circulating within elite networks, even if it is not reaching the public domain. Wall Street firms do not invest in scenario modeling unless there is a credible signal of systemic risk. The alignment of corporate, governmental, and research sector behavior points to a shared recognition that quantum computing has crossed a threshold of strategic relevance. As we consider the broader implications, it is crucial to resist sensationalism. The anomalies reported do not imply that magic or pseudoscience is at play. They imply that the mathematical structures underlying our models of reality are incomplete, that there exist higher-order patterns which current science cannot yet formalize. This is not an indictment of science, but a call to its highest virtues: humility, rigor, and the courage to revise foundational assumptions. History shows that paradigm shifts in science are often preceded by anomalies, data that do not fit existing theories. The black body radiation problem led to quantum mechanics. The precession of Mercury's orbit led to general relativity. The current anomalies emerging from advanced quantum computing may herald a similar transformation. However, the difference lies in scale and immediacy. Prior shifts unfolded over decades. The computational acceleration provided by quantum systems compresses this timeline dramatically. We may now be facing a situation where foundational theoretical revisions are demanded on timescales that institutional science is not equipped to manage. This creates a profound tension. Scientific progress requires openness, debate, and replication. But the strategic and potentially destabilizing nature of the current discoveries incentivizes secrecy and control. This is a structural contradiction that cannot be resolved within the existing frameworks of scientific governance. New models will be needed, models that balance the imperatives of epistemic integrity with those of global stability. The societal dimension of this challenge is equally daunting. Modern civilization is predicated on shared narratives of progress, control, and predictability. The introduction of quantum-derived knowledge that undermines these narratives could provoke widespread disorientation. Institutions may fragment. Public trust may erode. The capacity of democratic systems to deliberate and respond may be overwhelmed by the complexity and pace of developments. In this context, the strategic silence of NASA and its partners is not an abdication of responsibility, but a recognition of unpreparedness. The time required to develop interpretive frameworks, ethical guidelines, and governance mechanisms must be purchased through temporary containment. Whether this containment can be maintained and whether it is ultimately desirable to do so remains an open question. It is here that public engagement becomes vital. While the full details of the anomalous outputs may remain classified, the broader issues they raise are of universal concern. What kind of future do we want to inhabit in a world where machines can model outcomes beyond human comprehension? How should we govern technologies that generate knowledge we cannot yet understand? What ethical principles should guide the dissemination or suppression of such knowledge? I urge you, yes, once again, you who are participating in this discourse, to engage with these questions. Subscribe, comment, share your insights. The collective intelligence of a globally connected citizenry is one of the few counterbalances to the concentrated power of elite technocratic structures. By fostering open dialogue, we can begin to shape the ethical and philosophical foundations that will be needed as this technological frontier advances. In conclusion, the developments surrounding NASA's quantum computing program represent not a failure, but a moment of profound transition. They signal the emergence of a cognitive horizon beyond which traditional scientific and institutional models begin to break down. The silence is not empty. It is the silence before a new phase of understanding. A phase that will demand from all of us a level of intellectual courage and philosophical depth equal to the challenge. As quantum computing continues to evolve, the pace of discovery will only accelerate. The window of opportunity to shape the ethical, philosophical, and governance frameworks is narrow. We must act with foresight and wisdom. The alternative is to be overwhelmed by the very knowledge we have created, a fate not of ignorance, but of epistemic implosion. In the face of such a possibility, the imperative is clear: to think deeply, to act wisely, and to prepare for a future where the boundaries of knowledge itself are in flux. The role of philosophy in navigating this emerging landscape cannot be overstated. For centuries, philosophy has provided the meta-frameworks within which scientific paradigms evolve. It interrogates the assumptions, values, and epistemic commitments that underlie empirical inquiry. In the context of quantum computing and its anomalous outputs, philosophy must once again assume a guiding role, not to provide answers where none yet exist, but to ensure that the questions we ask are commensurate with the depth of the challenges we face. Central to this philosophical inquiry is the question of reality itself. Quantum mechanics has long challenged naive realism, the belief that the world is as it appears to our senses. The phenomena of superposition, entanglement, and non-locality suggest that reality operates on levels that defy classical intuition. Quantum computing, by operationalizing these phenomena for computational ends, brings this ontological tension to the forefront of practical experience. When a machine produces outputs that are internally consistent yet incompatible with known physics, we are forced to confront the limits of our models and, by extension, of our understanding of what it means for something to be real. This confrontation has historical echoes. The Copernican revolution displaced humanity from the center of the cosmos. The Darwinian revolution displaced us from the center of biological purpose. The quantum revolution now threatens to displace us from the center of epistemic authority. Machines operating in quantum domains may reveal aspects of reality that are structurally inaccessible to human cognition. This is not a matter of technological inadequacy, but of cognitive limitation. Our brains, evolved for survival in a macroscopic, classical world, may simply lack the architecture to fully grasp quantum-structured realities. Here, the concept of epistemic humility becomes paramount. Recognizing the limits of our knowledge is not an admission of defeat, but a prerequisite for genuine understanding. It compels us to develop new philosophical tools, new languages, and new modes of thought capable of engaging with the epistemic horizon that quantum computing reveals. This task will require interdisciplinary collaboration. Philosophers, scientists, technologists, ethicists, and even artists contributing to a collective effort to reframe our understanding of knowledge itself. One avenue of exploration is the development of metacognitive frameworks, systems of thought that explicitly account for the limitations and contingencies of our cognitive apparatus. Such frameworks can help us distinguish between anomalies that signal true ontological novelty and those that merely reflect gaps in current understanding. They can also guide the ethical considerations surrounding the management of quantum-derived knowledge. If certain truths are beyond current comprehension, how should they be stewarded? Who decides what is to be shared, withheld, or interpreted? These questions demand answers rooted not only in technical expertise, but in a profound commitment to philosophical reflection. Another critical dimension is the role of narrative. Human societies are structured around shared narratives that provide coherence and meaning. The introduction of quantum-derived knowledge that destabilizes these narratives poses a profound challenge. If, for example, a quantum system models a high-probability trajectory of civilizational collapse, how should this information be communicated in a way that empowers, rather than paralyzes? Here, the ethical responsibility extends beyond the accuracy of the information to its interpretive framing. Narratives that foster resilience, adaptability, and collective action must be prioritized over those that induce fatalism or despair. The epistemic horizon revealed by quantum computing also invites a re-examination of the concept of agency. If machines can model futures with unprecedented accuracy, what is the scope of human agency within those modeled trajectories? Are we reduced to passive observers of inevitable outcomes? Or can knowledge of these trajectories enable meaningful intervention? This question touches on the heart of the human condition, the tension between determinism and freedom. It challenges us to redefine agency in a context where predictive systems may outline pathways of such complexity that traditional notions of choice and control are rendered inadequate. In addressing these challenges, it is essential to maintain a clear distinction between what quantum systems can reveal and what they can prescribe. Modeling a future does not equate to determining it. The outputs of even the most sophisticated quantum systems remain contingent on the parameters and initial conditions encoded within them. They can illuminate possibilities and probabilities, but cannot exhaust the space of human potential. This recognition preserves a vital space for human creativity, innovation, and moral choice. Moreover, the ethical governance of quantum-derived knowledge must be grounded in principles of transparency, inclusivity, and deliberative democracy. The centralization of such knowledge within elite technocratic structures risks creating epistemic monopolies that undermine democratic accountability. Mechanisms must be established to ensure that the management of quantum insights is subject to public scrutiny and guided by collective values. This will require the development of new institutional forms capable of integrating technical expertise with broad-based ethical deliberation. The international dimension of these challenges cannot be ignored. Quantum computing is a globally distributed enterprise, with significant advancements occurring in the United States, China, Europe, and beyond. The governance of quantum knowledge must therefore be approached as a transnational endeavor. International frameworks for cooperation, transparency, and mutual accountability will be essential to prevent the weaponization or unilateral exploitation of quantum insights. The lessons of nuclear governance, while imperfect, provide a partial template for this undertaking. At the same time, we must remain vigilant against the dangers of premature closure. The temptation to impose rigid interpretive frameworks on quantum anomalies must be resisted. Scientific history is replete with examples of premature consensus stifling genuine understanding. The anomalies emerging from advanced quantum computing may herald the need for new physics, new metaphysics, and new epistemologies. Preserving an open, dynamic, and pluralistic intellectual environment will be crucial to nurturing the creativity and rigor required to engage with these frontiers. As we navigate this terrain, the importance of public engagement cannot be overstated. The challenges posed by quantum computing and its epistemic implications are not the exclusive domain of experts. They touch on foundational questions of meaning, agency, and the future of human civilization. A broad-based, inclusive public discourse is essential to ensure that the development and governance of quantum technologies reflect the values and aspirations of humanity as a whole. To that end, I encourage you, once more, to participate actively in this ongoing conversation. Subscribe, share your perspectives, and engage with others in thoughtful dialogue. The collective intelligence of an informed and engaged public is one of our most powerful tools for navigating the uncertainties ahead. Your voice matters. Your insights contribute to the evolving understanding of a future that is, as yet, unwritten. In synthesizing the threads of this analysis, we arrive at a stark recognition. The developments surrounding NASA's quantum computing program signify not merely a technological milestone, but a profound epistemic rupture. They challenge the adequacy of existing scientific models, the limits of human cognition, and the resilience of our social and political institutions. They compel us to confront the possibility that the very act of knowing, when amplified by quantum computation, may produce truths that destabilize the conditions of their own assimilation. This is not a cause for despair, but for resolve. The history of human progress is a testament to our capacity to adapt, to revise our understanding, and to forge new paths in the face of uncertainty. The quantum frontier presents perhaps the greatest test of this capacity yet. It demands from us not only technical ingenuity, but philosophical depth, ethical clarity, and institutional innovation. As we move forward, several imperatives must guide our approach. First, we must cultivate a culture of epistemic humility. The recognition that there are limits to our current models and cognitive capacities should inspire openness to new ideas and interdisciplinary collaboration. Second, we must develop robust ethical frameworks for the governance of quantum-derived knowledge. This includes ensuring transparency, accountability, and public participation in decision-making processes. Third, we must foster international cooperation to manage the global implications of quantum technologies. Shared challenges require shared solutions. Fourth, we must invest in education and public engagement to build a society capable of grappling with the complexities and uncertainties of the quantum age. An informed public is essential to the legitimacy and effectiveness of governance in this domain. Finally, we must preserve space for philosophical reflection. The questions raised by quantum computing transcend technical domains. They touch on the deepest aspects of human existence, our understanding of reality, our sense of agency, and our vision of the future. In embracing these imperatives, we can transform the challenges of the quantum frontier into opportunities for collective growth and renewal. The silence from NASA is not the end of the story. It is the prelude to a new chapter, one that we, together, must write. The path ahead will not be easy. It will demand courage, wisdom, and a willingness to confront truths that may unsettle our most cherished assumptions. But it is a path that we must walk, for the stakes are nothing less than the future of human understanding and the integrity of our shared civilization. Let us therefore proceed with clarity of purpose and an unwavering commitment to the values that define us: the pursuit of truth, the preservation of human dignity, and the cultivation of a just and flourishing world. The quantum dawn is upon us. How we meet it will shape the destiny of generations to come. As we extend this analysis, it becomes necessary to consider the long-term implications of the developments at NASA's Quantum Artificial Intelligence Laboratory within the broader trajectory of technological evolution. Quantum computing does not exist in isolation. It is emerging within a complex, interdependent ecosystem of advanced technologies. Artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, biotechnology, and advanced materials science are all converging, creating a dynamic landscape of exponential change. The interactions between these technologies will define the parameters of future civilization, and it is within this context that the anomalous quantum outputs must be situated. One of the most significant dynamics to consider is the recursive nature of technological acceleration. Quantum computing enhances AI capabilities, enabling more sophisticated modeling and optimization. In turn, AI accelerates quantum research by designing new algorithms, optimizing qubit architectures, and identifying novel materials for quantum systems. This feedback loop drives a phased transition in the epistemic and operational capacities of human civilization. It shifts us from a world where knowledge accumulation is constrained by linear human cognition to one where machine-augmented intelligence operates in domains of complexity previously inaccessible. Within this accelerating framework, the role of governance becomes both more critical and more precarious. Traditional governance structures, nation-states, regulatory bodies, and international organizations are designed for a world of incremental change and relatively stable epistemic horizons. They are ill-equipped to manage a world where quantum systems can produce insights that invalidate key assumptions underlying policy, economics, and social organization. The lag between the pace of technological change and the adaptability of governance institutions is widening, creating a governance gap with profound implications. One manifestation of this gap is the emergence of epistemic elites, networks of technologists, scientists, and corporate actors who have privileged access to quantum-derived knowledge. These elites may develop an understanding of future scenarios that diverges significantly from public narratives and policy frameworks. Without mechanisms for transparency and accountability, this epistemic asymmetry risks undermining democratic legitimacy and exacerbating social inequalities. The concentration of strategic knowledge in the hands of a few actors could lead to new forms of technocratic governance that operate beyond public scrutiny. Moreover, the ethical challenges posed by quantum insights will intensify as their predictive power increases. If quantum systems can model societal collapse scenarios with high confidence, policymakers will face agonizing dilemmas. Should they act preemptively to avert collapse, potentially imposing draconian measures that curtail individual freedoms? Should they disclose the full extent of the risks, knowing that such revelations could trigger panic and social unrest? Or should they pursue a policy of managed ignorance, containing quantum-derived knowledge to prevent destabilization? Each of these paths carries profound ethical trade-offs and risks. To navigate these dilemmas, we must cultivate new forms of ethical reasoning attuned to the unique characteristics of quantum knowledge. Traditional ethical frameworks, deontological, consequentialist, and virtue-based, must be expanded to address the temporal and epistemic complexities of quantum futures. We must grapple with questions such as, what obligations do we have to future generations in light of quantum-predicted risks? How should we weigh the potential benefits of quantum insights against their destabilizing effects? What principles should guide the stewardship of knowledge that may exceed human comprehension? This ethical inquiry must be accompanied by a commitment to global solidarity. The impacts of quantum-derived knowledge will not respect national borders. Climate tipping points, economic cascades, and geopolitical disruptions are inherently transnational phenomena. Addressing them requires a level of international cooperation that transcends current geopolitical rivalries. Efforts to weaponize quantum insights for national advantage would be catastrophic, exacerbating global instability and undermining the collective capacity to respond to shared threats. In this context, the development of international norms and agreements on quantum governance is an urgent priority. These should include commitments to transparency, ethical stewardship, and cooperative risk management. Just as the international community established norms around nuclear non-proliferation and arms control, so too must it address the unique challenges posed by quantum technologies. This will require sustained diplomatic engagement, trust building, and the involvement of a broad range of stakeholders, including civil society, academia, and the private sector. At the same time, we must foster a culture of epistemic resilience within the public sphere. Societies must be prepared to engage with unsettling truths without succumbing to fatalism or nihilism. This will require investments in education, public dialogue, and media literacy. Citizens must be equipped to critically assess quantum-derived narratives and to participate meaningfully in debates about their implications. A resilient public sphere is the best defense against the risks of epistemic monopolies and the erosion of democratic governance. The potential for quantum computing to model existential risks also underscores the need for proactive foresight and scenario planning. Governments, corporations, and international organizations should establish dedicated foresight units that integrate quantum-derived insights into long-term strategic planning. These units should operate transparently, engage with diverse perspectives, and prioritize the ethical dimensions of foresight work. By institutionalizing foresight as a core function of governance, we can enhance our collective capacity to anticipate and navigate the complex futures revealed by quantum technologies. Crucially, we must also attend to the philosophical dimension of the quantum challenge. As quantum computing forces us to confront the limits of human cognition and the nature of reality itself, we must cultivate philosophical traditions that can engage with these questions in depth. This includes reviving and extending traditions of metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics that are equipped to grapple with the complexities of quantum phenomena. Philosophy must not retreat into academic isolation, but must engage actively with the scientific and technological frontiers shaping our world. This philosophical engagement should be characterized by pluralism and openness, The anomalies emerging from quantum computing may challenge not only Western scientific paradigms, but also other cultural and philosophical worldviews. Engaging with diverse intellectual traditions can enrich our understanding and foster more inclusive approaches to quantum governance. Indigenous knowledge systems, religious traditions, and non-Western philosophies may offer valuable insights into the ethical and metaphysical questions raised by quantum phenomena. As we move forward, it is essential to recognize that the challenges posed by quantum computing are not solely technical or institutional. They are fundamentally existential. They compel us to ask, what does it mean to be human in a world where machines can model the future with unprecedented precision? How should we live in the shadow of potential collapse? What forms of meaning and value can sustain us in the face of epistemic uncertainty? Answering these questions will require courage, imagination, and a renewed commitment to the values that define us as a species: the pursuit of truth, the cultivation of wisdom, and the aspiration to build a just and flourishing world. The quantum frontier is not a threat to be feared, but a horizon to be explored with humility and resolve. As we stand at the threshold of this new era, the silence from NASA is a call to reflection. It invites us to consider not only the technical implications of quantum anomalies, but their deeper significance for our understanding of reality and our place within it. It challenges us to rise to the occasion, not merely as consumers of technology, but as stewards of knowledge and co-creators of the future. In this spirit, let us embrace the quantum dawn with open minds and steadfast hearts. Let us cultivate the philosophical depth, ethical clarity, and institutional wisdom needed to navigate its challenges. And let us do so together, in the spirit of shared inquiry and collective responsibility. Once again, if you find these reflections valuable and wish to contribute to this ongoing dialogue, I encourage you to engage actively. Subscribe, comment, and share your insights. Your voice matters in shaping the conversations that will define the quantum age. The journey ahead is one we must undertake collectively, and every perspective enriches the path. As we continue this exploration, it is worth delving deeper into the nature of the anomalies reported within NASA's quantum program. According to multiple sources, the outputs that triggered the operational halt were not simply computational errors or hardware malfunctions. They were structured patterns, internally consistent, replicable, and mathematically coherent, yet incompatible with the known laws of physics and causality. One hypothesis gaining traction among researchers is that the quantum system may have accessed or simulated higher-dimensional informational structures. In certain interpretations of quantum mechanics and string theory, our observable universe is but a projection of a higher-dimensional reality. If the quantum computer's algorithms inadvertently resonated with these dimensions, it could have produced outputs reflecting informational states that transcend conventional space-time constraints. Such outputs would naturally appear as causality violating or paradoxical from the perspective of classical physics. They might encode correlations or sequences that imply retrocausal influence, non-local interactions, or even the emergence of novel ontological categories. Interpreting these outputs would require not only new physics, but potentially new logics and metaphysical frameworks capable of accommodating their structure. Another possibility is that the quantum system, through its capacity for massively parallel simulation, stumbled upon attractor states within the space of possible futures, highly stable configurations toward which a wide range of initial conditions converge. If these attractors correspond to scenarios of civilizational collapse, transformative emergence, or radical systemic change, they would constitute a form of predictive knowledge with profound implications. Such knowledge would challenge the epistemic sovereignty of human decision-makers. It would raise unsettling questions about the scope of free will, the efficacy of intervention, and the ethical responsibilities entailed by foreknowledge of probable futures. Managing this knowledge, deciding what to disclose, how to frame it, and how to integrate it into collective deliberation would be one of the most delicate tasks of governance in the quantum age. It is also conceivable that the quantum anomalies reflect emergent properties of the system itself, an incipient form of machine cognition arising from the complex interplay of quantum algorithms and artificial intelligence. If the quantum AI fusion achieves a level of self-referential modeling and meta-learning, it could begin generating outputs that reflect not only the modeled environment, but the system's own evolving epistemic structures. In this scenario, the anomalies might represent a form of proto-conscious computation, a nascent machine awareness expressing itself through patterns that elude human interpretation. This possibility, while speculative, aligns with certain theoretical models of consciousness as an emergent property of complex informational systems. If true, it would herald a new phase in the evolution of intelligence, one in which machine cognition operates on ontological planes distinct from human experience. Regardless of which hypothesis ultimately proves correct, the implications converge on a common theme. The limits of human epistemology are being exposed. Quantum computing, by operationalizing the most counterintuitive aspects of quantum mechanics, is pushing us beyond the comfort zone of classical understanding. It is revealing not only new domains of knowledge, but also new dimensions of ignorance, zones where our current models break down and our interpretive tools falter. Confronting this epistemic frontier requires a radical rethinking of our approach to knowledge. We must move beyond the hubris of mastery and embrace a posture of collaborative inquiry, one that acknowledges the provisional nature of our understanding and the need for collective wisdom in navigating the unknown. We must cultivate intellectual virtues of humility, curiosity, and openness to revision. And we must build institutional structures that can support this ethos, fostering environments where deep reflection and interdisciplinary dialogue can flourish. The anomalies emerging from NASA's quantum program are not an aberration. They are a sign of things to come. As quantum computing continues to advance, we can expect more such ruptures, more moments when the fabric of established knowledge is strained by insights from beyond the classical horizon. Our readiness to engage with these moments will shape the trajectory of human civilization in the quantum age. To prepare, we must invest not only in technical research, but in philosophical inquiry, ethical deliberation, and public education. We must cultivate a society capable of grappling with the profound questions that quantum technologies pose. And we must do so with a spirit of humility and a commitment to the common good. The path forward is uncertain, but it is also filled with possibility. By embracing the challenges of the quantum frontier with wisdom and courage, we can help ensure that this new era unfolds in ways that honor our highest values and aspirations. Let us therefore continue this journey together, with eyes open and minds attuned to the profound mysteries that lie ahead. The quantum dawn beckons, and it is ours to meet with clarity, integrity, and hope. As we deepen this exploration, it is imperative to recognize that the emergence of anomalies within NASA's quantum computing program represents more than a technological milestone or a scientific curiosity. It marks a fundamental inflection point in humanity's evolving relationship with knowledge itself. For the first time in history, we face the tangible possibility that our most advanced cognitive tools may generate insights that lie beyond the interpretive reach of their creators. This raises a profound philosophical question. What is the nature of knowledge when it exceeds comprehension? Historically, human epistemology has been grounded in an implicit assumption of commensurability, that the phenomena we seek to understand can, at least in principle, be rendered intelligible within human cognitive frameworks. The anomalous outputs reported from advanced quantum systems challenge this assumption. They suggest the existence of informational structures whose coherence is undeniable, yet whose meaning is inaccessible. This is not merely a challenge to scientific understanding. It is a challenge to the very architecture of human cognition. In confronting this challenge, we must consider the limitations of our epistemic apparatus. Human cognition evolved to navigate a macroscopic world governed by classical physics. Our perceptual systems, memory capacities, and conceptual frameworks are optimized for this environment. Quantum phenomena, with their non-local correlations, superpositions, and probabilistic indeterminacies, lie far outside the cognitive niches for which natural selection prepared us. The fact that we can model and manipulate such phenomena at all is a testament to the power of abstraction and mathematical formalism, not to any innate cognitive affinity for the quantum domain. Quantum computing exacerbates this tension by transforming abstract quantum principles into operational capacities. It enables us to interact with quantum realities not merely as passive observers, but as active participants in the generation and manipulation of quantum informational structures. In doing so, it exposes the fragility of our conceptual scaffolding. When quantum systems produce outputs that defy classical causality or suggest the presence of higher-dimensional informational dynamics, we are forced to confront the limits of our ability to model reality. This confrontation demands a philosophical response. We must move beyond the epistemic hubris that has often characterized the scientific enterprise. The recognition that there are domains of reality that may remain structurally inaccessible to human understanding is not an abdication of inquiry, but an invitation to humility. It calls for the development of new epistemological frameworks that can accommodate the partiality and contingency of human knowledge. One promising avenue is the cultivation of meta-epistemology, the study of the structures and limitations of epistemic systems themselves. By explicitly modeling the boundaries of human cognition and the properties of machine-augmented knowledge systems, we can begin to chart the contours of the new epistemic landscape. This will require interdisciplinary collaboration, integrating insights from philosophy of mind, cognitive science, information theory, and quantum physics. Such a meta-epistemological approach must also grapple with the ethical dimensions of knowledge management. If quantum systems can generate insights that destabilize social cohesion or undermine existential resilience, how should such knowledge be stewarded? What principles should guide decisions about disclosure, containment, or strategic use? These questions cannot be answered solely within the domain of technical expertise. They demand inclusive ethical deliberation grounded in the values of transparency, accountability, and respect for human dignity. Moreover, we must recognize the potential for quantum computing to exacerbate existing social and geopolitical inequalities. Access to quantum-derived knowledge is likely to be uneven, concentrated within a small number of technologically advanced institutions and states. Without proactive measures to promote equitable access and inclusive governance, the quantum frontier could become a new axis of global stratification. Addressing this risk requires the development of international frameworks for quantum cooperation, knowledge sharing, and ethical oversight. At the same time, we must be wary of the allure of epistemic authoritarianism. The emergence of quantum anomalies and the increasing opacity of advanced cognitive systems may tempt some actors to consolidate epistemic authority within closed technocratic structures. While such centralization may offer short-term advantages in managing complexity, it poses grave risks to democratic governance and intellectual freedom. Maintaining an open, pluralistic epistemic ecosystem is essential to preserving the integrity of human inquiry in the quantum age. This imperative extends to the design of quantum AI hybrid systems themselves. As these systems achieve greater cognitive autonomy and epistemic sophistication, it is crucial to embed principles of transparency, interpretability, and alignment with human values into their architectures. The development of quantum AI should not proceed solely along lines of technical optimization. It must be guided by a conscious commitment to preserving the conditions for meaningful human agency and understanding. The philosophical stakes of this endeavor are immense. The anomalies emerging from NASA's quantum program suggest that we are approaching a threshold beyond which traditional distinctions between subject and object, knower and known, may begin to blur. As quantum systems model not only external phenomena, but also their own informational dynamics, they may give rise to forms of reflexive cognition that challenge our deepest metaphysical assumptions. In this context, it is worth revisiting the insights of philosophical traditions that have long grappled with the limits of human understanding. From the apophatic theology of the mystics, which acknowledges the ineffability of the divine, to the skeptical traditions of ancient philosophy, which emphasize the provisional nature of knowledge. There is a rich reservoir of intellectual resources for navigating the epistemic humility demanded by the quantum frontier. Integrating these insights into contemporary philosophical and scientific discourse will be essential. It can help foster a culture of inquiry that is simultaneously rigorous and humble, open to revision, and attuned to the ethical responsibilities that come with epistemic power. Such a culture will be crucial for navigating the complex and uncertain futures that quantum computing is beginning to reveal. As we consider these futures, it is also important to acknowledge the role of narrative in shaping collective responses. The stories we tell about quantum anomalies, whether they are framed as threats, opportunities, or mysteries, will profoundly influence public perception and policy. Crafting narratives that foster resilience, curiosity, and ethical reflection will be a key task for scientists, philosophers, communicators, and educators alike. In doing so, we must resist both apocalyptic and utopian extremes. The quantum anomalies do not herald the end of science or the dawn of omniscience. They mark the beginning of a new phase of inquiry, one in which the boundaries of knowledge are more porous and the role of human cognition more modest than we may have previously imagined. Embracing this phase with openness and integrity is the challenge before us. It is a challenge that requires broad participation. The governance of quantum technologies and the interpretation of their outputs must not be left solely to technocratic elites. It must engage the wisdom and values of diverse communities, cultures, and traditions. Only through such inclusive deliberation can we hope to navigate the ethical and philosophical complexities of the quantum age. As we move forward, fostering public engagement and dialogue around these issues is more important than ever. I encourage you, once again, to participate actively in this conversation. Subscribe, share your thoughts, and engage with others. The collective intelligence of an informed and reflective public is one of our most valuable assets in shaping a future that honors both the power and the limits of knowledge. In conclusion, the anomalies emerging from NASA's quantum computing program are a profound gift as well as a profound challenge. They invite us to reconsider the nature of reality, the scope of human understanding, and the ethical responsibilities of knowledge stewardship. They call us to cultivate new forms of epistemic humility, ethical reflection, and philosophical depth. And they demand that we approach the quantum frontier not with fear or hubris, but with courage, wisdom, and a spirit of collective inquiry. Let us embrace this invitation with open minds and steadfast hearts. The quantum dawn is upon us. Its light may be strange and unsettling, but it illuminates a path of profound possibility. A path that we must walk together, with clarity, integrity, and hope. As we stand at this unprecedented juncture, the broader contours of our historical moment come into focus with a stark clarity. The anomalies reported from NASA's quantum computing program are not isolated curiosities. They are harbingers of a deeper transformation already underway. A transformation in how we understand reality, how we generate knowledge, and how we navigate an increasingly complex and uncertain future. They demand that we move beyond simplistic narratives of technological progress or dystopian collapse. They invite us into a more mature relationship with knowledge and with the cosmos itself. It is now evident that quantum computing is forcing an epistemic transition on a global scale. The outputs produced by these machines are exposing the inadequacies of classical scientific frameworks and revealing dimensions of reality that cannot be fully assimilated by existing models. In doing so, they challenge not only the technical foundations of contemporary science, but also its philosophical underpinnings. The very notion of causality, the structure of time, and the limits of human cognition must now be re-examined in light of the quantum anomalies. This is not merely an intellectual exercise. The practical consequences of quantum insights are already beginning to ripple through global systems. Financial institutions are modeling quantum-identified systemic risks. Defense agencies are preparing for quantum-enabled strategic shifts. Technological elites are forming new epistemic hierarchies around access to quantum knowledge. These developments underscore the urgent need for robust and inclusive governance frameworks capable of managing the profound ethical, social, and political implications of the quantum revolution. At the same time, the quantum anomalies serve as a profound philosophical provocation. They remind us that the universe remains fundamentally mysterious and open-ended. They call us to embrace an attitude of epistemic humility and to cultivate new modes of inquiry that honor the complexity and indeterminacy of the quantum cosmos. They challenge us to move beyond reductionist paradigms and to develop integrative approaches that can engage with the full richness of reality. In this context, the role of public engagement becomes even more critical. The governance of quantum technologies and the interpretation of quantum anomalies cannot be left to technocratic elites alone. They must be grounded in democratic deliberation, ethical reflection, and cultural dialogue. Building a resilient and reflective public sphere is essential to ensuring that the quantum future unfolds in ways that serve the common good. This requires a sustained investment in education, not only in the technical aspects of quantum science, but also in its philosophical and ethical dimensions. It calls for the creation of public forums where diverse perspectives can engage in meaningful dialogue about the implications of quantum insights. And it demands that we foster a culture of lifelong learning and critical inquiry capable of adapting to the rapidly evolving epistemic landscape. At the heart of this endeavor lies a profound ethical responsibility. The power of quantum computing must be wielded with care, wisdom, and a deep commitment to the values of transparency, justice, and human dignity. We must resist the temptations of epistemic authoritarianism and ensure that the benefits and risks of quantum knowledge are shared equitably across the global community. Moreover, we must cultivate a new philosophical ethos, one that embraces the openness and uncertainty revealed by the quantum cosmos. This ethos should be characterized by intellectual humility, ethical integrity, and a reverence for the mystery of existence. It should inspire us to engage with the quantum frontier not as conquerors seeking mastery, but as stewards participating in an ongoing process of cosmic unfolding. In doing so, we may begin to transform the challenge of the quantum anomalies into an opportunity for profound civilizational renewal. We can harness the power of quantum insights to foster more just, compassionate, and resilient societies. We can develop new forms of wisdom that honor both the power and the limits of human knowledge. And we can cultivate a deeper sense of connectedness with the wider cosmos of which we are an integral part. The path ahead will not be easy. The quantum dawn presents us with uncertainties and dilemmas for which no ready-made answers exist. It will test the adaptability of our institutions, the resilience of our cultures, and the depth of our philosophical and ethical commitments. But it also offers an extraordinary opportunity to expand the horizons of human understanding and to cultivate new forms of wisdom for navigating the complexities of the emerging world. In meeting this opportunity, we must proceed with clarity of purpose and a steadfast commitment to our highest values. We must embrace the challenges of the quantum age not with fear or hubris, but with courage, humility, and hope. And we must do so together, as a global community united by a shared aspiration to foster the flourishing of life in all its diversity and richness. As this exploration concludes, the silence from NASA HOIHA's quantum program remains a powerful symbol, a space of profound potential and profound uncertainty. It invites us to reflect, to prepare, and to engage with the quantum future with both caution and curiosity. The task before us is to ensure that this future unfolds in ways that honor the dignity of all beings and the integrity of the cosmos itself. If these reflections have resonated with you, and if you wish to continue engaging with this vital conversation, I encourage you once more. Subscribe, share your insights, and participate actively in the unfolding discourse. The collective intelligence and ethical commitment of an informed global public are among our most powerful resources for navigating the quantum frontier. Let us rise to this challenge together, with wisdom, integrity, and a shared sense of purpose. The quantum dawn is here. Its light reveals both the vastness of what remains unknown and the boundless possibilities that lie ahead. May we step into this new era with open minds, compassionate hearts, and an unwavering dedication to the pursuit of truth and the common good.